bills, get some experience, get that experience clock working for you. So then you're going to graduate in December. Are you going to walk?
I think so.
Your mom would come? You do it for your mom? Would you do it for yourself? If it was just you? I mean, they can watch the video of it, right? There's like a link, you send it out. Where's she at?
Yeah.
Somebody can help her out, right? Figure it out. Maybe. Oh, really? Are you the oldest? Wow. That's a big deal. Is she pretty proud of you? Probably because who you are, not just what you do, right? That's pretty cool. Well, I want to be there when you graduate. Can I come? I will be. Yeah, it's probably, let's see. It's probably my favorite day of the semester.
Yeah.
Seeing the completion, seeing the families of the students. I really enjoy that. Some students I haven't seen for a few semesters, and they're finally graduating, and it's really nice. And then Brother Everhard has his dinner at his house, the graduation dinner. You're coming to that too, right? You're a minor. You're close enough. You'll get the invite. You'll have to decide if you want to come or not. But
Yeah.
perfect. Sounds great. Okay, I guess it's time to start. It is time to start. Where is everybody? Carter? What's the story here? Long weekend. Elder Bednar comes. We just feel so enlightened and we feel like we don't need class anymore. We have the Spirit. It's fine. Did he come? Did Elder Bednar come? It was good. You didn't know about it? Garrett.
Had the 3 devotionals, and everyone apparently only heard of one. I didn't know there was 3. And so my brother sent me a record. Hey, come on. What?
Yeah, fireside on Friday for our study.
Oh, wow.
Leadership on Saturday.
Yeah, I heard he was doing a state conference here. I don't know if he did multiples. I don't know. Fun. What did you guys like about Elder Bednar? What sticks out from what he said? Anything that just like, wow.
Like a little more relaxed.
Really?
It's like fireside was super relaxed on Friday. I think it was more of a Q&A and like it wasn't super formal.
Definitely not the general conference address.
I feel like it's more practical and just like I don't know, sometimes like conference talk, it's like oh, we should go try, so that's gonna be enjoyed. Like it's got more to like I got practical stuff like when we're arguing, we play Scrabble.
Is that what he said? When they argue, they play Scrabble?
Game of Scrabble. I don't know, like it's just like interesting to hear like get the cool. I don't think it's cool perspective on that.
Yeah, that's interesting.
But then like, well, just shut up and quit asking.
And what?
So he said, "What you said? I think you're shut up. Quit asking what's wrong and stop trying to fix it."
Oh, wow. That was his wife giving him advice?
No,
That was him?
like sometimes the wife
You can't fix it.
like give them a hug. Yeah.
I concur. I concur on that one. No question. I'm 100% on that one. Oh, that's great. That's great. I'm kind of sad I was not there. Well, good. Okay, great. Well, we're gonna do some built-in file dialogues today, which is pretty cool. Coming up, what's coming up in this class? We have a project due on Wednesday. Justice, are you done with the project? Wednesday. User forms? Not yet. You're still struggling with it right now. Maybe if we can get through this, maybe we'll spend last 15 minutes of class just kind of helping out a little bit. Does that work?
The midterm redo is on Wednesday.
Oh, did I put this in the wrong box here?
It just doesn't show up on the calendar.
Oh, it doesn't show up on the calendar? It doesn't have a due date? But I've seen some people do it. This says it's due the 14th. Oh, so I just put it on the wrong day.
Cause if we got the midterm, like rework, we can do Wednesday project, therefore we take Friday. That makes the most sense.
Oh, that sounds great. Can I just add a row here to fix that? Just so it's maybe just for me, maybe just for my benefit. So instead of, because right now it looks like it's due Wednesday on this thing. What is this thing? So we're saying if I take this guy and I move him to Friday, then we should be good. Perfect.
Thank you.
Beautiful. Got it. Thank you. That's good. I like that. That's a lot. That's much improved. That's helpful. That's really good. Let's see what else is coming up after the project on Friday.
That's it.
That's basically it. Man, look at that. It's week 10 already. Can you believe that? Call it good. You guys feel like you've learned enough? You feel like you've filled that this class has filled your bucket? You gotta get a bigger bucket, Garrett, because we got more left. We haven't even touched data from databases yet. That is awesome. The combination of this with SQL, oh gosh, it's crazy. It's crazy. We should be charging you for your, wait, we do charge you for your education. That's right. We got some fun stuff, really fun stuff. The database pivot tables this week, and then databases next week. Using VBA generative AI, that'll be interesting. Controlling Chrome, sending Gmail with VBA, customizing ribbons and add-ins. I would say, just as a reminder, this, in fact, we're gonna talk about this in a minute, but this database modification project, let's see, just as I'm recording, right? Yes, we're good. This database modification project is the heaviest project of the semester, right here. This one project you might pull your hair out like me. You might look like me by the end of the semester. Okay, I don't think it's that bad, but this project does take quite a bit of time. Some of the things we're going to do today are going to be directly applicable to this project. So just to give you a heads up, right, that's after this user forms project, this project is probably the biggest of the whole semester. And it's fairly involved, pretty powerful. It's pretty cool. And then there's a couple of homeworks, and then there's one more project which is not as bad as the database modification project, but which is pretty cool. Automating a web browser. And then we have the final exam. So yeah, we are like towards the end of this semester. It's pretty exciting. Okay, like I said, why don't we start and get through our code today, and then see if I can save 10 or 15 minutes at the end of class and work on any questions. Kind of have a little 15-minute lab. Is that terrible? That's only 15 minutes. Just to kind of open it up, see what we can do to help on anything that's coming up. Sound good? Okay, that's the goal. Let's say a prayer and we'll jump in. Who'd like to pray for us? Any volunteer? Carter's got his elbow up. Okay, great. Thanks, Carter.
Father, first day for this opportunity to speak with the class today. For this, that we may be able to make insights to this, that we can use it for our projects and our upcoming assignments and series. Starts tonight.
Amen. Great. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Okay, so if I pull up today's page, Excel's built-in file dialogs. A couple of things we need to do here to kind of set up where we're going. We need to download two files, two downloads. One download is the actual Excel file. The other download is a zip file. So I'll go ahead and download both of these. We have a crime.zip file. I'll go ahead and put this into my downloads folder. And I'll download the XLSM file. I'll put that in my downloads folder as well. They just need to be in the same folder, right? So when you're downloading these files, they need to be in the same folder. And then let me go ahead and unblock my file here. Let's see, can I do that here? Yeah, unblock my Excel file. And let me go ahead and double click on the crime zip file. So this crime zip file has a bunch of state files. So I'll double click on that. I'll extract all, and I'm going to extract it into the same folder where the Excel file is. So for example, in my downloads folder, I have the crime data file. This is the XLSM file, and a crime folder file in the same folder, right? And this folder contains all these files. Now, again, this is not the zip file. Here's the zip file. I extracted that zip file, and this is the extraction. This is the crime folder, which contains all the files. Same level in the same folder as your crime data. And this is the data that you'll be working with in the database modification project. So it's helpful to kind of see this data, just get exposed to it. You'll see it a lot more here before we finish the semester. Let me just pull up California's file. Let's just look at this data in the crime folder, California file. What does this look like? So this is California. Offenses known to law enforcement by university and college, 2011. So this is a little bit older data, but this keeps track of different universities and different campuses of those universities, and the student enrollment for each campus, and certain violent crimes. So we have murder, forcible rape, robbery, aggravated assault, and we have violent crime here that's totaling up these columns. And we have property crime here, which totals up these columns. So, wow, Sacramento has 4 arsons for the year 2011. State Center, wait, which one is this one? State Center Community College District. Anybody know where that's at? Yeah. They had 7 arsons. That seems high for university. Maybe because it's just hot. Okay, so here's the data. Let's check, just out of curiosity, what does Utah look like? Utah, no arsons in Utah. How about that? Yeah, I did. I had to unblock it. Yeah. The what? Sorry? Oh, it's in Fresno? Ah, interesting. That's kind of surprising, actually. That's actually really surprising. Okay, great. So this is the data, and what we're going to be doing today is we are going to set up ways to open files, process files, and then close the files, all in VBA. And for this example, right, this could be, if you can imagine an internship would be to go through all these files and copy stuff out of this file and put it into a database. That is basically a database modification project. So we are going to process all these files, pull data out of those files, put it into the database, close the file. And that's what we're going to do today. So let's do it. Okay, so let me pull open my XLSM file, the crime data file. That'll be the one where we do our code. Let me open up the developer tab, go to Visual Basic. And there's no module here yet, which is kind of interesting, right? Because it's saved as an XLSM file, but it doesn't have any modules. Kind of weird, but it's nice. That way, when we can just hit save, we don't have to save as. I'm going to go ahead and insert a module here. So this, again, this is the crime data file. I've inserted a module, and we're going to start pulling data from these files, from these crime data files. So let's start a sub. Sub, let's call this file dialog. Partly because that's the name that Microsoft uses to manipulate files, is a file dialog box, right? We've seen this, right? We've seen a message box like hello, just like this. We're going to use another box that's called the file dialog box. So one of the first things, I think this was our first week, maybe second week of class, where we can build a little dialog box, a little message box like this. And we can run it, and there's our message box. What we're going to do is we're going to do a little bit different. We're going to do a dialog box. So instead of a message box, we're going to create first an object. Let's call it FD for file dialog. And this is the type of object, office.file dialog. And this is going to open a file dialog box where we choose a file, right? And let's go ahead and set this FD to a file dialog box. What we'll do is we'll invoke the application object, which is like the entire Excel application. Within that application is the file dialog command. And within that, there's a couple different ones we can use. We'll use the first one here, the file picker, file dialog file picker. And again, what we're doing here is by setting this FD, we've created this object up here. By setting it, we've just put the reference to an object into that variable, right? That's just, again, when we create this variable, we're saying we're putting a reference to an object in memory. That's where it's going. That's all that's happening here, is we're setting this reference to a folder that or a file that we're going to select. We're going to put a reference to that file into this object. So let's do that. So now what I'll do is I'll do fd.show, and this will actually show the file dialog box. So if I type this in, click on play, we should see a pop-up here, a pop-up that says, hey, choose a file. And we can choose a file, any file. And we can click OK, and it goes away. Okay, let's do a neighbor check on that. So if this so far, can you get this file dialog box to pop up based on this code? Go ahead and check in with your neighbor. Say, neighbor, I'm good. I got this. Or neighbor, I'm reinstalling my operating system. So we just created the object here. We're allocating memory to that object. We're going to set that to this object. And now we're going to show it. And what we can do with this is pretty cool. So now that we have this object created, we can say, hey, there's a whole bunch of properties to this object. What we can come down here is we can say, okay, debug.print, let's do fd.selectedItems.count. So if we run this again and we select a couple of files here, I've selected 1, 2, 3, 4 files. If I click OK, it's going to print the number of selected items from that object. It's going to print it up here. So I printed 4. I selected 4 items and it printed 4. If I select it again and select one file, it's going to print the 1. So one command we can do here is we can say, okay, just count how many items were selected. fd.selectedItems.count. And what we're going to want to do here is we're going to want to go through all of these files. So let's create a counter. So let me come back up here. We'll create x as integer. We're going to run through a number of files. We're going to create a loop. So let's say for x is equal to 1, 2, fd.selectedItems.count. I'll put in my next statement to close off my loop. And before we actually do anything with it, let's just make sure it runs this loop. Let's do a debug.print. I'll do fd selected items. And this time I'll say items parentheses x. So it's gonna print each item through this loop. Let's run this. So I'll run this code. Oh, I got an error. Sorry, it's not items, it's item without the S. And I'll run the code and I'll select a couple of files here. And what it's done is it has come up and printed those names of the files. In fact, the full name, right? Back to the hard drive level. C drive, users, folder, file name. Okay, we can add one more thing to this. Before we do the loop, what if somebody exits out, right? So if I run this and I decide, no, I don't want to do this anymore, and just closes this window, nothing is selected, then let's not go through the loop. So let's do a test here. Let's do if fd.selectedItems.count is equal to 0, then just exit the sub. Say, we're done. We're done with you. We're done with the sub. I'm out. So if I run this again and I escape or I cancel this browse option, then it's going to exit the sub. It's all done. The count is 0, so I'm done. And does not go through this loop up the top. Count is 0, nothing selected, and so it did not go through this loop. Okay, good. This is good. Now there's a couple of other options that we can add to this when we're dealing with the file dialog box. Notice one of the things we can do is we can change which types of files by default we want to open. And we can do that with this. So this is one where a sequence is important, right? You have to do this before you show the dialog box. So it's got to be above the show. But what if we put in here, excuse me. What if we said fd dot allow multi-select, which is a property of the object, equal to false. So this basically says only select one file. Now if we run this, we're limiting the selection of the file to just one file. So if I try to do 2, what happens? It like deselects the other file. Even if I hold down Control, it just deselects it. I think I just copied that. So that's one option. You like that? Justice likes it. Anybody else like it? Lukewarm. Justice, thank you. Garrett likes it. Hunter's on it. Nice. Yeah, it gets better. Watch this. Watch this. I'm going to impress Justice today. That's the goal. Watch this, Justice. Watch. We can do false or true. I'll just go ahead and leave it as. I'll just leave this as true by default. So I'll just comment that out. we can do this. We can say FD dot filters dot add double quotes space. There's a little space after add double quotes Excel files. And I'm adding a little bit here for justice. And now what I can do is I can say, I want you to filter the files that you're allowing to select. So a little bit of syntax here. I'm saying fd.filters.add. This is the title that the user is going to see in the window, and I'll change in a second, comma, space, and this is where we do another open quote, and we do star.xlsx, comma, star.xlsm, comma, star.xl, there's an XLSB, and we'll do star.xls, the good old days of Excel, when there was only just 3 letters in the file name, .xls. So I can filter which files can be selected by using this. So if I hit F5 and run this, this is saying right there, Excel files for justice. It actually came up for justice. And it's limiting those files that are in that have the extension that we talked about, which is pretty cool. In fact, I can do this by default. Let's do this a little bit better. Before I set this filter, I can come in here and add one line, and I can say fd.filters.clear, and that will actually take away the all files. So by default, this would come up, right? So if I run this now, it's going to say Excel files for justice, and it's already filtering those files out based on the filter. That's not bad, right? That's not bad. There's a couple more we can do here. We can do all kinds of, we can do, let's do data files, filters.add. Let's do data files. And we can do star.csv, comma, space, star.txt, comma, space, star.tsv, tab separated values, comma, star.dat. Some data files used to end in DAT a long time ago. Not so much anymore. I don't think. I don't use that. fd.filters.add. Let's do another one. What if we did Word files? Right? We can filter by docx, comma, star.docm. That's by the way, that's a macro enabled Word document, which is pretty cool. Star.docb, star.doc. And we can add all these in the same window, right? So now I've cleared out the filters. I've added these 3 filters. If I run the program now, the file dialog box comes open. Justice is the first one, but then I can change it by this drop down, and it will identify the Word files, the data files. I don't have any data files. Does this have data files? No, that doesn't have data files. We can select the different options here for the different filters that we want. I mean, not bad. Okay, and then last one, let's do the last one here. One more, we could say fd.filters.add. Let's do our all files again. And in this case, we'll just do star.star. Let me scroll up a little bit so you can see it better, hopefully. fd.filters.add, all files, and then comma, and then quote star.star. That's going to bring it all in. And that's going to give us another option right here that says show us all the files, and I'll choose from there. Okay, so that is the file dialog box. Not bad, right? I guess one more, if we wanted to be a little bit more fancy, we could say, okay, let's do a filter index. And this would like basically say, let's set the filter index to all files, kind of saying, this is the original order, but we can start with this one, the fourth one in the row, and then all files would be the one that shows up first here by default. And then we can change that by selecting on this. So that's what that filter index does. Okay, let's pause here. Let's do a little neighbor check. Neighbor, how'd you do? Can you get these filters? Can you open the file? Oh, you're way behind? Justice, where are you? Okay, great. You're still putting this in. Yep, good. Yeah, maybe you should switch to Dvorak keyboard layout so you can type faster. Have I told you guys that story? I haven't told you this? Oh, it was the other class? Sorry, you guys missed out. Just kidding. Have you? Well, it's pretty amazing. Jared, have you seen it? Oh, he's got a couple now. Well, I think he's tried to combine it. Yeah, no, the one that he most recently showed me was a date. In fact, maybe I should bring that up. If there's time at the end, I'll remind me to bring it up. It'll take me a little bit to find it because it's hidden in my email somewhere. But yeah, it's like this dating app that he built with VBA and Excel that says, how much interest do you have in the date? How much money do you want to spend? And there's like 2 or 3 other factors that you input into this Excel spreadsheet. You hit go, enter, whatever, a button, and it comes up with these date ideas given all that criteria. Cheap, not really interested, outdoors, and I can't remember the other ones. But if you're really interested and you want to spend a lot of money and you want to be nice, then it comes up with a whole different set of ideas. Yeah, not bad, right? Not bad. Would you buy that? Yeah. How much would you spend, Garrett? Garrett, that's the wrong answer, buddy. You're supposed to date your wife too. Dating doesn't stop when you get married. What did Elder Bednar say? Oh. He said it's the small things that matter, right? It's the small things that make a difference. You weren't there either? Wait a minute. Who was there? Okay. All right. We had a good showing. Extra credit. No. No, I'm sad. Is it on? Do you know if it's available? Okay, sorry. Sometimes I get distracted. I was wondering. I was just going to ask. Do they usually post it on the video thing?
Might not be on VBA Idaho, but it might be on.
Yeah, yeah. Sometimes they'll put it. I'll look for it. I'd love to hear it actually. Okay, great. Anybody have any questions, problems, concerns? Everybody got to this point? Can I troubleshoot? Are we good? Carson's good. Will's good. Hunter? Oh, good. I like errors. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to come and create a new sub. So as if I go over there to help Hunter just a second, set up this new sub, we're actually going to process one file at a time, and we're going to send it a file path. So that's the next thing we're going to do. The first sub we just made was we're going to select the files to process. We're going to create another sub to allow us to actually process the file. Debug data files. I think you need a star before that. .csv.
Yep, that's it.
Oh, do you have a comma? Oh, that was it. Nice. Sweet. It's that small stuff that kills you. Okay, great. So one of the things we need to avoid when we're processing these files is we need to avoid the idea of the active workbook. You know how we've used the active sheet. There's also an active workbook. So if I come up here to my immediate window and I say active workbook dot name, then it prints out the name of the active workbook, right? The file. And it's tempting to use this active workbook when we are working with files. But if somebody has more than one Excel file open and they run code, and let's say it takes a while to run, and so they click on the other Excel file to do some work in this other Excel file, the code that's running will run on that active workbook, whichever one's active, right? So that gets to be a little bit dangerous. So we kind of want to avoid doing code on a file that we don't want to do code on, if that makes any sense. What we're going to try to figure out here, though, is we're trying to look for workbooks.open, and we want to use a file path. That's where we want to go. We're going to open a workbook, not the active workbook, with a file path. We're going to send a file path to this sub. We're going to say, what file do we want to open? Which file do we want to process? And that's what we're going to do. We're going to open it. So in order to go to this, let's do this. Let's set up a couple of variables. Let's do dim WB as workbook. And let's go ahead and set that workbook equal to workbooks.open, bless you, file path. And let's just see if this works. We'll do a little stop. We'll put a stop in here. And we'll run this. Let's see, how do we run this one? Because we have to pass it a file path, right? So if I run this sub down here, and then how do we connect these up? That's the other question. How do we connect the one we just did, the opening, with the one to process it? We'll do that in just a second. Huh. What's going on that? Wait a minute, I lost my spot. 20. Oh, here we go. Okay, not yet. Let's do this. After we stop this, I want to show you how to close it too. So this we do WB stands for the workbook. We're going to close the file. There's an option here. Do we want to save changes? We'll do false. We're going to open the file and make some changes to that file. But when we close it, we don't want to save the changes. Seems weird, but that false right there says don't save changes. It's just going to close the file. Okay, great. Now we're ready to connect these two. So we have one sub that opens the file, decides which file to open. And then we have another sub that processes the file. So let's connect these two. When I come back down here to the file dialog sub, instead of printing the name here of whichever file we connected, we selected, I want to run the process one sub. So I'll come back up here, grab this name right here, copy process one file, come back down here and paste it into that loop that we created before. For each file that we select, go ahead and process that file. That's what that says. So all I've done here, this last step is I've taken the name of the sub, process one file, put it into this loop so we can process each file. And that's connecting these two modules, these two subs, these two procedures. So if I run this file dialog, it should allow me to select a file. And let's see, which one do I want to select? Let's go into crime and let's go to California. Where's California? I will select the California file and it should open up. And lo and behold, it has opened up the file. I can see it over here and it's stopped on my stop. If I do play again, it should close the file. Boom, close the file. Okay, so again, I ran this file dialog sub. It asked me to choose the file. I chose California. It opened that file and it stopped right there. The code is, I'm in break mode. If I hit play to continue, it closes the file and does not save it. Beautiful. Okay, we got the basics down here. Questions, comments, concerns, please. Yep, you bet. Right here in this loop. So that was the loop that we did at the very bottom. And instead of printing it, that's really what we did. We just kind of printed it, printed the name. Instead of printing it, we're going to process that. We're going to call that sub. So if I were to, in fact, to test that, right, I could select multiple. Let's select multiple files here. Oh, did we change this so we can only select one? Let's go back and undo that. Where did I do that? Only select one file. Let's do let's see, allow multi-select equals true. I'm going to come back up to my allow multi-select and I'm going to say true. Allow for multiple files to be selected. And now when I run that, we should have the ability to select multiple files. It opens those files. Let's see how many files we have open now. Oh, it's opening one by one and then it stops. That's right. So if I play, it'll open the next one and stop, play, next one and stop, play. It's opened a next file and stopped, and play. It's opened, I think this is the last one, and stopped. Pretty cool. Okay, so we can open as many files as we have selected in that loop. Carter? Oh yeah. Where did I do that? Right here. So this is the top of the file dialog sub. This used to be false. This is the one that was false, and I commented it out. I just changed it to true. Please. I think that's right, because before we didn't have the filters. I would have expected it to be true, but because we've run it, it may have taken the previous setting, and so we have to explicitly tell it again to be true. Because I think by default it is true, but when we ran all this code, it changes the default setting. Yeah. Okay, great. Please.
Only opening the address, it's not opening.
Let's see it. Okay, yeah, so I think you're still printing the address right there, but if you change your debug print to the name of the sub of the process one file sub.
Delete this one then.
Yeah, just to take out the debug.print, but leave the rest. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, perfect. And then call the name of the sub. So what's the name of the sub up above? The other one, yeah, process one file. That's it.
Okay.
So put that there where the debug.print was, right in front of that FD.
Wait, so I had to change the selected files?
Yep, copy that. You don't actually need the file path because that's what you're sending it over here. But go ahead and paste it right there.
Just replace it.
No, you want to keep that. Paste that there. And then remove the file path and the parentheses. And what you're saying is, I'm going to send you, here's the file path that I'm going to send you. Process this file. That's what that's saying.
Well, okay, but do I just leave this there?
Yeah, it's got to be on the same line because that's got to be the input to that
And
to
then-
that sub. Perfect. That's it.
Oh, okay, gotcha. So would I put these in parentheses as well?
No, actually, you don't even need that because you're not returning anything back. So it's good. So there's that. Yeah, yeah. And it should open one at a time and stop. Perfect. Close and open. Nice. Yeah, that looks good. How are we doing? It's just not working.
Yeah.
FT dollar.
Yeah, which like when I like tried running this earlier, it won't even hold up.
Do you have FD.show somewhere?
No. FD. FD.
Okay, yeah, it's on there. FD.allow multi-select equals true. Did it stop there because there was an error? What was the error message?
I think no,
Oh, it doesn't like it. That might be a
could be a
Mac
thing.
thing. Yeah, I bet it is. What if you comment that out and keep going? What happens then? Yeah, it might be that it doesn't know what an office.file dialog is. It might be,
We're going to do
yeah,
yeah,
it doesn't recognize that as an object. Do you have, I can't remember if you have parallels or anything on here?
yeah, I can run this, but it'll take me like
It takes like
15 minutes.
20
Take
minutes to set
forever.
up.
Which I could, which I know sometimes I can go from Mac to parallels, it keeps the Mac. I could try.
Okay. Okay. Brennan? How's it going?
Having trouble like getting the for it to pull the information from the different states or
Expecting object to be local. Debug. And then run that one more time. Okay, yeah, end that. Sorry, do one more time. I'm thinking I know what it is, but try one more time. Do come back into the file dialog. Yeah, run that. Perfect. Okay, so you have that, and then double click on this folder right there, and then click one of those states. Okay, that worked.
Okay. Never mind.
So I think you just got to click on the folder. I think you might have been clicking on the zip file,
Oh yeah.
and it was like, I don't know what to do with that.
Okay.
So I think if you click on the folder, it should work. Okay, great. I think we're good. A little bit, almost. Except for Andrew. I feel bad. Do we just leave you in the dust and we expect you to do your own learning? And Cody's a nice guy. Why don't you steal his computer and he can just watch? Okay. All right. Sounds good. Okay, great. Let's see. So let's see where we've at. We've selected the file and we can process a file. We can now open a file, which is great. Let's see what's next. Let's make another sub. So this third sub we're going to make is going to be something that processes all the files. And this is where we start to do a collection of files to process. So the first sub we did was the file dialog to open up which file, to select a file. The second sub was processing one file. We're going to open it up. We're going to do some magic, and then we're going to close it. And the third sub here that we're going to create is, let's call this sub process all files. And let's go ahead and create, let's create a couple objects here, a couple of variables. Let's create a file name as string. And by the way, the file names, it might be helpful to do a little bit of a history lesson here. Does anybody know what DOS is? DOS? It was like the operating system before Windows. DOS. And so a lot of these commands that we're about to use come from this ancient ancient of days language. If I wanted to see all the files in a directory, I would type dir and it would show me all these files, folders and files. If I wanted to change directories, I would do CD and the name of the directory, and then I would type dir, and it would give me all the list of the names of the files. It shows me there some time and date time information, shows me how big the file is. Those were the things that you did. This was before File Explorer. You couldn't browse. It was all text-based, and you had to know these commands to get around. CD would change. You could do dir. Let's see, if I go into the crime, is this where my crime folder is? Yeah, so I could do CD crime, and I could say, okay, give me the list of files in my crime directory. And I could say dir utah.xlsx. And it would say, oh, you must mean this file right here. And it gives me some of this information. So dir is one of the commands that VBA has been using for years and years based on this old language that is still used, is still available on all our computers. It's just been around for lifetime, actually. So we're going to use this dir as a command in VBA. For example, let me translate this now back to VBA. We can say this workbook.path, and it presents us this path. This is the file path of where this file is located. This file is located in my downloads folder on my computer in these directories. The other thing we need to catch here is the separator. As it turns out, different operating systems have different folder separators, which is kind of unfortunate. We can say application path separator. And for this operating system, this is the backslash, right? If you were to do this on Mac, you would have a /, right? And so this is one way that VBA allows us to have the file path, bless you, dependent upon which operating system we use. So that's also important. We'll use that as well in terms of finding the path and then processing the file with the path. So we have dim file name as string. Let's do dim path as string. This is the file, the actual path of the file. And let's create the path. So the path for the file is going to be this workbook dot path. So it's going to pull the path of this workbook. We're going to add to that, we're going to concatenate application dot path separator to make it be able to run on multiple operating systems, Mac or Windows. We're going to concatenate with the name of the crime directory. So we'll do crime. And then we'll concatenate another separator on here, application.path separator. And that's going to give us the path. So I could copy this. I could come up here and say, what is the path here? And that is, it doesn't like that, but that's going to give us the path of where the crime folder is according to this workbook, right? Which should work. This workbook, crime data workbook, is in the same folder as the crime folder. Now we're saying go into the crime folder and pull the file. And the question is, which file is? That's what we're going to do next. So we have this path. Let's put the path together to form the file name. So I'll do file name is equal to, I'll do the dir, which is the function in VBA that allows us to identify this folder that it's in. Dir open parentheses path and star.xlsx. And then after that one, we can use all the other files in that directory. So it's saying, hey, pull all of the XLSS files, the star.xlsx, inside of that crime, because path is referring to the crime folder. That's going to be the file name that we're going to use for all these files. Now we can say, now we can put this into a loop. We can say do until file name is equal to nothing. We'll do a do loop. And we can operate all of those files for each one. We can do something for each one of those. Let's go ahead and put in my do events in here because it's a do loop. And just to see if this works here, let's just do a debug.print file name. And let's see what happens. So I'll put a stop down here. I'll run it, and we'll see how we do. Sub or function not defined. Oops, I forgot an E. I'm going to put my E for do events. And oh boy, what have I done? Yeah, it's like a never-ending loop of Alabama. I'm in a never-ending loop. It's doing this because I forgot to advance the file to the next one, right? Do this with the file name. Well, you haven't changed the file name, so it's still the same thing. So it's just going to keep going. But I can do, because I put a do events in there, I can stop this, I can pause it, I can stop it, and we're okay. Isn't that beautiful? In fact, let me just go ahead and save my file just in case. Just in case. Let me save this here. So how do we advance this? It turns out that the way to advance this is inside the do loop. We're going to say file name is equal to dir open and close. It's going to change. It's going to go to the next file name. How about that? It says, okay, we processed this guy. Go to the next one. This is very similar to the x is equal to x plus 1, where we're going to the next one in the list. So now when we run this, it should go through all the state's files and print their names in the window above. So if I run this, there we go. Went through all of them. There's Wyoming. It grabbed all the files in that path, printed the name of the file, and it just stopped right there, which is great. Okay, so instead of printing the file, I mean, it's good to print, right? What we really want to do though is we want to process these files. So I want to come down here, and again, I want to call the process one file path and file name. So I'm going to send the path concatenated with the file name of the file, and I'm going to say go process each file. Now, before I run this, if I run this, it's going to process all these. It's going to open and close all these files. So before I run this, I'm going to go ahead and stop it because I'm in break mode. I want to go make a change up here to my, or down here, to my open and close. I'm just going to comment these out. So if I come to the process one file, if I comment these out, just for now, just for a few minutes, this just allows me to not have to open every single file and close it. And then we'll come back and change this in just a minute. But that's what I want to do. I don't want to open and close everything just for the purposes, just because it takes a little time, which is not a ton of time, but just to see if it works. So now I've come back up here. I'm calling this sub, sending it the path and file name, and let's see if this works. So I'll run this, and it stopped right there. That's good. Stop, 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 run, stop, run, stop, run, stop, run, stop. So this is good. It's going into this sub, and it's ready to process each file when we call that process name, process one file. Okay, so we're making progress. What we still need to do is we need to go grab some data and process the file. So what we've done is we can open and close multiple files in a list. And now let's go ahead and figure out how to process some of this information. So process the data that's already in these files. Let's see. Let's add this here. We'll come to, in fact, instead of doing this, we'll come back and uncomment this out later. I'm going to comment that, and I'm going to do files.add path and file name. And this adds all these to a collection. So what we need to do is we need to create a collection of files, and I'll come back up here to the dim. I'll say dim files as new collection. We're going to make a collection of files. And we're going to add those files to that collection right there. That's really what we're doing here. So let me put a comment here. Load file names into a collection. Let's add all these files into a collection. And then we're going to process the files. So after the loop, this is where we're going to process the files. I'll do for x is equal to 1. Let's see, have we defined x up here? No, I need to come up here and define x. Dim x as integer. And do for x is equal to 1 to files.count. And then for each file, we'll do process one file. Files is the name of the collection, parentheses x. So notice what I've done here is I've separated out adding the files to a collection and actually processing the files. I'm demonstrating two different ways to do this. One is the dir, the kind of the directory way of going through all those files. And the other process is using a collection. You can do either one. You can do one or the other. When I process files, I don't like to use dir to process files because the danger there is that you could have some outside influence when the code's running and it could wreck the code. You may not be able to process it correctly. It may process another file. So the dir is older. The collection process is a little bit better for actually processing the file. This one, we're just adding the name to the collection, but this one, we're actually processing it. Okay, great. So we're going to process the files. We're going to push stop. And now what we need to do, in fact, let's make this easier on ourselves. Let's do one more sub just for development purposes. And we'll call this Acme sub runner. And for this sub, we're just going to process one file. And let me do this. Let me just go ahead and if I process one file, which file should we process? Let's process the California one, right? Let's see, what's my California path? So if I come back up here, and I'm trying to find my California path, if I come down to my file dialog box, did we get rid of our file name path? Yeah, we did. Let me just print this. Let me put it back in here. Debug.print selected item. Let's see, fd.selected items dot item x, and that's going to print that. I'm going to run this so I can select California. I'm going to grab the California file address right there. Let's see, I went through that pretty quickly. What I did is I came back here to file dialog, and I'm just adding back the debug.print command for the selected item so that I could get the full address to California. And now I'm going to put that in my path right here that says process this one file. Yeah, sure. So I added this debug.print and I ran this and I selected California and this was stop. I can comment this out. I can hit play, keep going, and it's going to give me that address of California. And I just needed that so I could write this other query, this other sub at the top, just so that instead of processing all the files, I just process one file. So if I run this, it's going to process one file. Now that we have that set up, let me come back here and uncomment out the opening and closing of the file. So we commented those out earlier. I'm going to uncomment those so we can actually open the file and actually process it. I think that's kind of what we're ready to do here. So we're going to start processing this file. So let's run this, and I'll come up here. I could even do a shortcut if I wanted to for this one. Acme sub runner. And it looks like it closed it, so I need to add a stop back in the process here so we can stop it before it closes. And now I can run it again, and it's open. Okay, so that's kind of where we need to be right now. So if I run this Acme sub runner, I should say process one file. It should open the California file, and then it should stop. That's kind of where we're at. And now what we're going to do is we're going to look at this file and start to process the inside files. Sound good? Okay, great. Andrew, Carter? Okay, sure. Let me come over. Anybody else?
So I think it was. There's one we did the dir.
Oh, yeah.
Let's see, which one? I think it was
Right, that one. Yeah.
So if I run this, it gives me that file number.
That's the file
And
name.
I try to debug it. It's this one.
And XLSX dir. So you've got a file name as string, dir path, and path is string, path is that's string. Oh, weird. That seems like it's exactly like mine, isn't it?
But all the other things were working. So
Do you have a file in that? Do you have XLSS files in your crime folder? Where is your crime folder?
this one. So it's called SCM.
Let's see, you've got a data folder here, but is that, double click on that one? Is that all the states?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So you've called it data.
Yeah.
In the code, it's looking for crime. Does that make sense? Because you've got crime right there.
Oh,
And so it's
switch it to
pulling this
data.
path. Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And then you could drag your yellow arrow up to that line and just play that. And then it will find it. Maybe. Mouse over your path. Okay, yeah, so it's way over in the live.net document. So that's going to be a problem. Because, well, unless the data's there, it might still work, actually. If you've got an application separator going this way, it should be that way. Maybe that's the problem. Take out the application separator and just do a double quotes with a forward slash in there.
Right here.
Yeah, exactly.
And then do what?
Do a double quotes, forward slash inside of it. Yeah, and then same thing on this one. But it might be that the file, because the file's in your OneDrive, that it's like not recognizing it.
Let's try to.
Yeah, it doesn't like it. So it's most likely, and then scroll over your, or roll over, mouse over your path. Yeah, so it's not liking. Go up here and type in path up here. Do on the very top, question mark path. What's the full path? Yeah, it's not liking the,
This part right here.
yeah. It's not liking the OneDrive. If you save this file and all of the folders onto your like your C drive or something like that, see if that works. You want to try that? Because you probably have to save this file too. Where you save it over there? Cody, sir, are you on
This
OneDrive?
isn't one,
Oh, probably.
so,
That's probably it.
yeah, it won't do the path. Where does
Yeah,
it?
what
need
is
to be
it?
saved? This is the
Uh,
path that shoots out for California.
Okay.
Like, what do I need to add in here?
Why don't you copy this line? Copy from this workbook to the end. And let's just do a test. Copy that and then come up here and do a question mark. And let's hit enter on that. See what happens. Yeah, same thing. I think it's a OneDrive thing. So OneDrive has these ghost folders, random number folders, and so you just have to save the file and the files outside of OneDrive somewhere, and it should work. Like maybe on the C drive itself. Is that what you do, Andrew? Okay. Okay, great. Garrett, question? Somebody had a hand. Will? Or yeah,
I got stuck when I try to play.
process one file, and then you got to give it a file name, right? A path.
I did the somewhere over here. This one.
Yeah. Yeah, so here, let's do this. Go down to your, let's see, is it down or up? I can't remember. Yeah, this one. When you run this, add a line here underneath this that says debug.print. And then do the same thing up here. Do FD, that selected items, that item X.
This one.
Yep. Yeah. And then when you run this and select a file, it should print up that. Oh yeah, it doesn't like that. Type in, comment that out for a second. Yeah.
Then try it.
Stop, go ahead and stop it and see if you can run the one below. Go down to the other one first. That one. Run that sub. And then double click on crime. And whoa, where's word files? And click on California. And then that's the path. So grab that line, copy that, and then back up to the top one, do process one file space, and then just space inside double quotes. And that should work. Should open it up.
Thank you.
Yeah, you bet. You got it?
So it keeps coming up here. And saying it's not.
Oh, yeah. So this is looking for a collection. So come up here underneath the X, do dim, do another variable, dim. I think just space. Collection, yeah. There you go, try that. Oh, different error. Okay, yeah, so I think the OneDrive thing is
Mhm.
throwing it off. So
Gotcha.
you might have to copy the file and the crime data files to a different folder just to see it. Yeah. Try that. Like C drive maybe. So I used to say desktop, but now OneDrive uses the desktop too. So it's like doesn't, yeah, it usually does. Go to, do you have a My Computer down here on the very bottom? This PC?
Look at there.
I'm not sure where it puts it. Yeah, do the C, you could open up the C drive. Maybe do a folder on the C drive first. There it is. Yeah, it's right there. So maybe you put this file in the folder above that. What is that? This is the actual C drive. Anyway, see if that works. Okay, great. I think we're almost done. Let's do a couple more steps here, and then we still have some time for anything else here at the end. Okay, here's some interesting things about this data. If we look at the California file, there's an interesting column here called campus, and this has very specific campus information for this university, right? Cal State has, I don't know how many is that? 16 different campuses with so many different students enrolled. This is the actual data that you download from the FBI. This is FBI data from their website. Schools have voluntarily reported this information to the FBI. The FBI collects it and makes it available. But some of this data is missing, right? So because it's voluntary, they don't always include all the information, right? So there's some gaps and there's some holes because it's voluntary data. But if we look at this file compared to, let's say Utah's file, Utah's universities don't have a campus indication because it's all just one campus. See the difference there? So California's schools have different campuses. Utah schools do not have different campuses. So one of the interesting things that we have to do here is we have to, in order to make our code work, in order to be consistent from worksheet to worksheet, how do we handle this? One option is if we get to a file that doesn't have the campuses listed, we should add a column into column B. And what that's going to do is that's going to align all of the columns will be the same, right? Student enrollment, murders in column E, all these other crimes are aligned. So one thing we can do is we can check to see if the value in cell B5 is equal to campus, is not equal to campus, then add a column. Does that make sense? So B5 here is student enrollment, and there's no campus here. So if there's no campus in B5, add a column. That's what we're going to do here. Let me close that one. Let me come back to the code. And so this is like inside of the processing now. We're going to check to see if there's a campus in that cell. If range B5 does not equal to, we'll do dot value, does not equal to campus, then we're going to insert. So I'll do columns 2, that's my B column, insert a column. That's how we're going to format that. We also need to create here a workbook, or a worksheet rather. I can't remember, did we create a worksheet yet? In this sub? I don't think we have, so let's create one. Dim WS as worksheet. And we're going to set that worksheet. Let's set it right here. Set worksheet is equal to WB, which is our workbook. And we're going to say worksheets, the first one. the first worksheet in that workbook. There's only one sheet. So we'll just say, give us that first worksheet. That's what our WS object is. If that range B5 is not equal to campus, then insert a column B and process it. So we should be able to process this now. So if I come up here to my Acme sub runner, let me go ahead and close this California file and run this, then it should not enter a column. And it didn't because campus exists. So we know that worked. If I come back here and I open up Utah, let me run this Acme sub runner again, but with Utah. And I'll just change the name out here to Utah. It should add the column. Let me comment this out. I'll run this one. And Utah, and it's added a column. There we go. We got it. So we have an extra column if there's no campus in that column. And now let's see. How much farther would it be helpful to go? Let me do a couple more steps here. We're going to iterate over the colleges. So the way we do that is we say, we'll start with row equals 6. We'll dim another variable here, dim row as long. And it's pretty safe to say that on all these sheets, the first college listed is in row 6. So we're going to start with row is equal to 6 here. And we're going to do a loop. Do loop. Let me scroll up a little bit. We'll do a do events. And we're going to debug. We're going to make sure that we have the right information here. Debug.print row, comma, WS cells, row, comma, 1 dot value. That is referencing this particular college right here. WS is this first worksheet. Row is the row that we're on. We're doing cells row 1. So that is the row number, column 1. What's the value in that cell? And then we're going to increment the row. Row is equal to row plus 1. Did I lose you? Did I lose you?
Interview prep. I have an interview tomorrow.
Nice. Good luck. See ya. Yes, dim row is long. Yeah. Great. Good catch. Okay, great. So now we're ready to run this thing. So now I'll go ahead and close this. And I don't want to save the changes. And we're just about ready to process this. So I can come here to my Acme sub runner and we'll process this file. It will add the B and it should print our college. And then this is the next problem, which I think we're kind of out of time for, which is how do we know when to stop? And I will put that, maybe I'll put that to a separate video and send that out because I think that would be helpful for the database project. But that's basically it. Why don't I stop there and then we can talk about anybody questions that you have, open it up for a few minutes here at the end of class. Otherwise, I'll see you guys next time. Thanks so much. I'll go ahead and stop.